any of you remember that video back in October that I put out on the Bigfoot of the Tsar's palace, well, the Empress of Russia found that unbelievably beautiful place completely unbecoming. Now, it might be hard to think how that beautiful place is unbecoming of an empress, but what she replaced it with is just nuts. Winter is back here in Russia, and for me, at least, one of the big connotations with the snow coming back is evening walks, watching the snow come down on all the beautiful, historic and classical architecture. I know many people come to Russia during the holidays to spend it with family, and if you're craving some of that sweet, sweet imperial architecture without any of the downside of the freezing Baltic air of St. Petersburg, then hey, this video is for you. In the southern district of Moscow, there's a park with a relatively unknown palace to outsiders outside the city. Tsaritsyno Palace was founded in 1775, which technically makes it older than my entire country being an American and all, by Empress Catherine the Great as her replacement for the summer palace in Kolomenskoye Park. And well, I can see why. The park itself is super easy to get to by metro. It's just a straight shoot 40 minutes from Red Square, but you wouldn't believe how close this is in Moscow just by the sheer size of the place. This park is massive, with most of it not even visible because of a giant forest that takes up the majority of the park itself, blocking your view from the entrance. Now at this point you might be asking yourself, what is a former palace in the woods doing in the middle of an industrial district of Moscow? Well, Empress Catherine decided that although she was mostly going to stay in the northern capital, she indeed deserved a summer vacation palace done in the style she had become accustomed to in St. Petersburg. So she sent her most trusted Russian architect to Moscow to build the site for her, which was a first for the country because up until this point, all the imperial palaces were designed by foreign architects. Thus, the architect decided to blend the styles of Moscow Baroque, Neo-Gothic, and Classicism to build something that truly, uniquely fits the Moscow skyline. Beyond that, he designed this residence to be a virtual, self-contained cityscape. It was supposed to have 5 separate palaces for Catherine and her family, as well as multiple quarters for courtsmen, servants, art pavilions, even an opera house and a local Orthodox church on site. Just in case, the royals get the urge for some late night repenting, I guess. And as is the tradition in Russia, I wasn't able to film inside the church, but you can always look up photos and see what this place looks like because, for my money, I would say that it is plenty worthy of a royal. But this fairy tale-esque palace sadly was doomed to disaster from the beginning. Its construction was only a passing fancy for the Empress, so it often lacked funding. This forced the architect to take out loans in his own name just to try and finish it when it was already 7 years later than expected. This led to further defunding by Catherine as the Empress showed up one day out of the blue and left disappointed with the state of the estate. So, as you might be able to guess, the Empress basically told the guy, hey, tear it all down and start over. Unfortunately for the architect, he never got a second go of it. He was replaced by another architect who redesigned the palace not as 5 separate palaces, but as a single giant palace with several small accompanying quarters for family and friends. But now it gets even worse because Catherine died before the palace could be completed. And this incredible site would be left in disrepair, abandoned, never to become a true imperial residence. It wasn't until Emperor Alexander I's reign that he opened up the residence to Moscow's nobility, allowing the rich to run around on horseback, having picnics, and doing whatever else it is that the rich and royals do for fun. During the Soviet Union, of course, the park was renamed Lenino Village, and originally held the Executive Committee of Moscow, but soon it too fell into disuse and had panel houses erected on the site. By the end of the Soviet Union, the palace was barren, deserted, and it took an entire team of archaeologists and architects over 10 years to fully restore it to its former glory. The park is now a place where anyone can enjoy its royal-like delights, not just the nobility as Alexander intended. The park is constantly full of cross-country skiers, children on sleds, old couple feeding ducks, decorative lights, as well as museums. which, as I always give a traveling tip in my video, I would suggest not purchasing any of the museum passes except for the main palace. Me and my friend purchased every single ticket, and I can tell you all of them were full of just some small art exhibits from local children or local artists, or a museum of bland baking history. So there, I saved you a couple thousand rubles, so if you are thankful at all, you might consider liking and subscribing on this video. It would mean a lot to me. So without further ado, let me show you why I think Tsaritsyno Palace is an absolutely must-see if you're coming to Moscow. When you walk through Tsaritsyno Palace, you're walking back in time. A time of single men shaking the world, of emperors and empresses, of waltz and ceremony and pomp. It's like stepping into that movie Anastasia, and it costs less than a ticket to that movie did. The park is free to get into, and only the palace or the museums cost a couple hundred ruble each. So if you don't have any money this winter, you can still walk the paths of the emperors and empresses of Russia for next to nothing on your next date stroll through the city. Tsaritsyno Park is romantic, it's historic, and frankly just really, really beautiful this time of year. I can't recommend it enough.